My name is Dr. Alina Mercer. I'm 34 years old, and for 6 years I lived as if I had died to my own family. The death wasn't physical. It was quieter than that. It happened in my parents' living room in Richmond, Virginia, the night my younger brother told them I had falsified research data during my fellowship. He said the university was handling it internally, and that I had begged him not to tell them. None of it was true. I had taken a formal leave to testify in a malpractice case against a senior surgeon who had been cutting corners for years. I became a whistleblower, and in doing so, I embarrassed a man my brother idolized. By the time I tried to explain, the story had already calcified. My father, a retired Marine who believed loyalty meant silence, looked at me like I was a stranger wearing his daughter's face. My mother cried in a way that suggested she was mourning something already buried. "We raised you better than this," she said. I remember gripping the strap of my purse so tightly my fingers went numb. I offered documents, emails, official statements. My brother, Daniel, offered screenshots, fabricated, edited just enough to look plausible. I saw then how easily truth loses to confidence. Within a week, my calls went unanswered. Within a month, I was blocked. I packed my apartment near campus and moved to Chicago, where no one knew my name attached to scandal. I started over at a public hospital on the South Side, working night shifts in emergency medicine, stitching up knife wounds at 2 a.m., restarting hearts that had almost given up. The work was brutal and honest. It didn't care about rumors. Blood didn't ask about family politics. In those fluorescent-lit corridors, I rebuilt myself cell by cell. I rented a studio with peeling paint and learned the rhythm of sirens outside my window. I made friends with nurses who brought homemade food on holidays and called me Doc with affection, not suspicion. I stopped checking my phone for a Virginia area code. I told myself I didn't need them. But every Thanksgiving, when I ate microwaved stuffing alone after a shift, there was a hollow space at the table I pretended not to see. Daniel stayed close to my parents. He visited every Sunday, fixed their gutters, mowed their lawn. He became the dependable son, the grieving brother, the one who had lost a sister to ambition and arrogance. I heard all of this secondhand through an old neighbor who still sent me Christmas cards in secret. I never defended myself publicly. I thought time would expose what I didn't have the strength to fight. I was wrong about the timing, but not about the truth. The truth arrived on a rain-soaked Thursday night in the form of a multi-car pileup on Lakeshore Drive. I was the attending physician in charge of the when the ambulances started rolling in, lights slicing through the dark like accusations. Among the stretchers pushed through the automatic doors was a man with severe thoracic trauma. Oxygen mask fogging, chests rising unevenly. Male, 32 blunt force impact. Possible internal bleeding, the paramedic recited. I glanced at the chart to confirm allergies and froze. Daniel Mercer. Emergency contact, Thomas Mercer, father. For a fraction of a second, the room narrowed to the sound of my own pulse. Then training overrode memory. Trauma Bay 3, I ordered. Prep for intubation. Get blood cross-matched now. His face was swollen. Blood matted in his hair, but it was unmistakably him. The same brother who had dismantled my life was now dependent on my hands to save his. There is a particular cruelty in that symmetry. Through the glass doors, I saw my parents rushing in, my mother's coat half-buttoned, my father's jaw set in panic. I hadn't seen me yet. I led the procedure, inserting a chest tube to relieve pressure from a collapsed lung. Directing the surgical team as we stabilized him for the OR, I narrated calmly, clinically, as if the man on the table were a stranger. Perhaps in some ways he was. 2 hours later, after emergency surgery to repair a torn artery, Daniel was alive. Critical, but alive. I scrubbed out, removed my gloves, and walked into the waiting room. My parents stood the moment I entered. My father's eyes scanned my scrubs. My badge, Dr. Alina Mercer, MD, attending emergency physician. Recognition hit him like a physical blow. "Alina?" he whispered, as if saying my name might shatter something fragile. I kept my voice steady. "Daniel is out of surgery. He lost a significant amount of blood, but we were able to repair the arterial damage. He's in the ICU now." My mother's face crumpled. She reached for me instinctively, then hesitated, unsure of her place. You're working here?" she asked, dazed. "For 5 years," I replied. Silence settled between us, thick and undeniable. My father cleared his throat. "Your brother said—" I met his eyes. I know what he said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The proof of my existence stood before them in hospital-issued scrubs, and the authority with which nurses passed behind me and said, "Great job, doctor," for the first time. Doubt flickered across my father's face. Not about me, but about the story he had clung to. In that waiting room, under harsh fluorescent light, the narrative began to fracture. Daniel woke the next afternoon in the ICU, pale and disoriented, monitors beeping in soft accusation around him. I entered alone. He blinked at me, confusion giving way to something sharp, a recognition laced with fear. "Alina?" he croaked. I adjusted his floor rate without looking away. "You're stable." The surgery was successful. He swallowed hard. "You saved me." It wasn't gratitude. It was disbelief. I finally met his gaze. "Yes!" The word hung between us, heavy with years. My parents stood outside the glass wall, watching as if afraid to interrupt something sacred or explosive. Daniel's eyes filled. "I didn't think you'd—" After everything, I let out a slow breath. "I'm a doctor. That doesn't change based on who's on the table." He turned his face toward the window, shame coloring his expression more vividly than any bruise. Later that evening, my parents asked to speak with me privately. We sat in a small consultation room that smelled faintly of antiseptic and burnt coffee. My father's hands trembled, something I had never seen before. "We were wrong," he said simply. "No defensiveness. No qualifiers." My mother wept openly. "We believed him because it was easier than questioning him," she admitted. "Easier than admitting we might have failed you." I listened. Not as the desperate daughter who once begged to be heard, but as a woman who had survived without them. "I sent you documents," I said quietly. "Emails. Letters." My father nodded, eyes downcast. "We never opened them." The honesty was brutal, but at least it was honest. I didn't offer immediate forgiveness. Instead, I offered terms. If we move forward, it's with transparency, therapy, conversations that don't end when they get uncomfortable, and no more blind loyalty over truth. My father agreed without argument. That was news. Over the following weeks, Daniel publicly corrected his life errors to extended family. Then in a written statement to the university community, he had misled. He confessed that jealousy had driven him, that he couldn't bear the idea of me standing against someone he admired. Trust did not magically reappear. It rebuilt slowly, like bone knitting after a fracture. One Sunday morning, months later, my parents came to my apartment in Chicago for brunch. My mother set out plates while my father asked where I kept the coffee filters. Daniel sat quietly at my small kitchen table, a faint scar visible near his collarbone, the one my surgical team had left behind. We were not the same family we had been. We were humbler, softer around the edges. As I poured coffee into 4 mismatched mugs, I realized something profound. I hadn't saved my brother to win. I had saved him because I refused to let bitterness define me. Forgiveness wasn't immediate, and it wasn't complete. But it was possible, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe that being someone's daughter again didn't mean losing who I had fought so hard to become.